Hello, and welcome back to Chronically Joyful. You are joining me here today in my office before I head outside on this 94-degree day and try to tackle the lawn. But I wanted to take a little bit of time today with all of you fine folks. Please have a seat, join me in this moment, just to talk about something that's been bubbling up more recently, but also I think a topic that is highly important and worth sharing. And that is common myths and misconceptions of multiple sclerosis specifically, because that is my experience. However, I think that a lot of these can apply to multiple other chronic illnesses out there. So buckle up, sit on down, let's fly on through the sky and talk about some interesting but horrific myths. Okay, myth number one, to add to the drama behind all of this, is you're going to die. Honestly, it's almost embarrassing how often I personally hear this, where people hear I have MS, which is a chronic illness, meaning that it is a part of me and will follow me for eternity until I magically fix it. If you've been following me for a while, I will never stop saying that. But it's not terminal. A terminal illness is one that basically says, hey, you have this very heavy diagnosis. You are most likely to pass away after X amount of time. But I know a lot of people too who got a terminal illness diagnosis and completely kicked ass, took names, and are still here today. So I'm just going to ride this optimistic train as I always do and say, if you ever have a practitioner look you in the eye and say, you're going to die, you should spit in their face and walk out. No, I'm totally kidding. Don't do that. That's terrible. But maybe get a second opinion. Maybe weigh your options. In my personal case, with a chronic illness that has no mortality related to the diagnosis whatsoever, I was told this by my practitioner in 2024 because my progression was happening so quickly because I was not on medication at the time and I was experiencing an influx of very heavy symptoms. And basically what he told me was, you're going to want to get this treated as soon as possible. Otherwise, you're going to decline real quick over the next 10 years and potentially die. And then I fired him. And I am with a neurologist now who I love, cherish, and value very much. So things happen for a reason, friends. So myth number one about chronic diseases and multiple sclerosis as a main point of interest here. It is not fatal. It is a chronic illness. You are hopefully not going to die. And any practitioner that tells you otherwise, big thumbs down. Myth number two, you look fine, therefore you feel fine. False. With a lot of chronic illnesses out there, this does not apply to everyone. Most often, in my personal experience, they're also invisible illnesses. I myself, with almost 12 years experience under my belt of having relapsing remitting multiple sclerosis, most often it is invisible. I feel very fortunate that I've got my symptoms under such fantastic control. My mindset is really healthy. My mental health is in check. We are Gucci. I show up mostly in my life as a big ray of sunshine, constantly pushing people past their comfort zones, saying, hey, maybe you should add paprika to that, you weirdo. Like trying to make people breach outside of their comfort zones and do the things. That is my personal experience. That does not apply to all. And oftentimes folks with MS have visible illnesses, folks who are using wheelchairs, mobility aids, back braces. Honestly, I might need a back brace. My T12 has been having some issues. I just don't feel like dealing with it. So I just continue to lift weights and potentially make it worse. Movement is medicine, right? But yeah, it's one of those things. You look fine, so you must feel fine. Absolutely not. I've learned over the last 12 years about, unfortunately, I know how to mask really well. I'm working on this actively now, where I'm trying to be more I guess, authentic in showing up exactly as I am, exactly how I'm feeling, not trying to fool people into thinking that I'm doing better than I actually am. It's harder than you would think. I'm a professional at convincing people that everything is fine, even when it's not. And sometimes it's harder to show up and actually voice the fact that it's not. And while I can't really complain overall, I've not really been having chronic pain recently. Knock loudly on wood. That's something that you don't often see. You can't see it. So, like, my colleagues around me when I'm in the office are always like, what smells like Bengay? And it's me just rubbing Tiger Balm over my bone spurs and my hands that are in excessive agony sometimes. But, like, you can't tell. I'm having a lot of cognitive dissonance is what I've been calling it, or cog fog in the MS world. It's taking me a little bit longer than normal to process tasks and specific information in comparison to days that I'm feeling really sharp and really on. So it depends, and it's very uncomfortable in those situations too, like when I'm at work and I'm like, hey guys, I'm having a day. Can you give me a little bit of grace? But like nothing is visible, so I've absolutely been subjected to scenarios where people are like, yeah, sure, and they don't believe me, and that's fine. I don't care what other people think or like if they believe me or not. I know that I have MS and I know I'm living with it, and I'm doing the best that I possibly can. So gentle reminder, you don't know what's going on in somebody else's life, even if you're very close to them, if they haven't shared everything with you. Don't assume you know. Tip of the day. This is me dramatically stirring my tea. This feels appropriate in this moment for this video. Myth number 3, or as my dad would say, tree. If your symptoms are well managed, you don't need medication. And I say poo-poo to that. And as someone for many years who believed that I could live my life very healthfully and very intentionally and come off of disease-modifying therapies, aka DMTs, aka MS drugs, I stand before you all now successfully taking Ocrevus, and given that it's only every 6 months, I find it to be fairly non-invasive. I feel great almost all the time. I attribute that to many different things, but in the context of medication here, as my family would say, don't fix what ain't broke. It's just one of these things where it's like, why bother changing this if it's working really well for me? And maybe if ever, God forbid, comes the day that Ocrevus stops working and I start progressing again, this is Copaxone, Tecfidera, Mavenclad, Ocrevus. This is med number 4 for Catherine. So God forbid something happens and it stops working. Yes, there is an arsenal of available medications out there today. I feel very fortunate to be living in this time right now with MS, but it's a tricky situation where I don't know what my next course of action would actually be. And I'm hoping I don't have to worry about it ever. I'm very happy on this drug and I feel really successful as a patient. But if ever comes the day, maybe then will be the time that I reconsider a more stringent lifestyle, more towards the Walls Protocol diet and certain things that are considered dietary triggers, activity levels, which I think I'm doing fine with right now. About to go mow my lawn at 94 degrees. We're good. We're Gucci. We got this. We're fine. But just being a little bit more intentional about how I choose to live my life should I choose not to be on a medication in the future. Again, knocking on all the wood, manifesting, I don't have to worry about that because I'm gonna fix it, as I keep saying. But just, if your symptoms are well managed and you're on a medication already, I personally, in my opinion, over the last 12 years of living with this, believe very strongly that it's probably in your best interest to continue with your medication. It's doing what it's supposed to be doing. Maybe your lifestyle factors are also contributing to helping you out in this regard, but don't fix what ain't broke. If your symptoms are well managed and you're on a med, it's doing its job. So, myth number 3, if your symptoms are well managed, you don't need medication. I poo-poo on this one too. I think that it is ultimately up to you as the patient and the person that is experiencing what you're experiencing to make these big decisions in partnership with your healthcare team, but predominantly up to you as a human that is experiencing it. So just use your best judgment and figure out if the med that you're currently on is working for you or not. And if you're not on medication and you're stable, keep on keeping on and comment on this video and tell me what you're doing. We all would love to hear. Myth number 4. MS specifically is inherited through family, genealogy, and heritage. This is not proven. Reversing it back to my video on having a chronic illness and fertility and choosing whether or not you want to have children, and having this in the back of your head of like, what if I gave my kid MS in my case? It is a thought that haunts me to this day. Go back, watch that video. I'll link it in the description if you're curious to hear just my personal opinions. I'm not a scientist or a clinician in this case. It is just how I feel after living with this illness for almost 12 years. So take that with a grain of salt and a disclaimer. Politely with a bow on top, please. But there is no proof to link MS within family. And trust me, when I got diagnosed at 20 years old, I was still a kid. And I think every single one of my family members basically was like, oh my God, it's all my fault. I gave it to her because I have Hashimoto's and it's totally linked through the autoimmune. Oh my God, I totally gave it to her because I have fibromyalgia and those are 2 autoimmune diseases and there's totally a track record of making that a thing. Oh my God, that time she had mono definitely gave her MS because the Epstein-Barr virus. I'm still pretty salty at the MS Society for making such a vast claim like that, to be like, research shows this is totally part of the cause. Not everyone that's had Epstein-Barr virus has MS. Thank you. Try again. There's no evidence or proof to show that it is biologically inherited. And there is no evidence or proof to show that it is not. There are some folks I know who have MS and their mom also has MS. And there's like a slight percentage of increase where it's like, oh, if your mom has it, then you might have it. But like, I also know so many people out there whose mom has MS and they and none of their siblings do either. So it's a coin toss on whether or not it's actually going to become a thing or you're not. Like, it's just no one knows. So just be cognizant over your opinions and the things that you believe just based on what's actually out there and how you feel about it. And it's all the way up to your opinions. And it's just a part of life that nobody knows the answer to. So just know that you are not alone, and MS is not inherited in genealogy as far as we know today. In tandem with this one, I'm going to sneak in an extra little myth in here that's not officially on the top 5 that I have here. And that is, I've had so many instances where people have looked at me and been like, oh, you have MS? Where'd you contract that from? Like it's a sexually transmitted disease. They're like, oh, who gave that to you? And I'm like, Jesus. Like, I don't know. I'm the water on Long Island. It is not something you contract. And I'm just throwing this out there for the people in the back. If you are diagnosed with a chronic illness, or you're diagnosed with MS specifically in this case, you didn't contract it. Tell your family to shop it, to zip the lip and shut it is what I was going for. Zip the lip and shut it. You didn't contract it from anybody else. It's just a part of you. A beautiful pain in the ass part of you, and we're all here for it. Okay, I just really had to say my piece on that. MS is not something you contract. Neither is most other chronic diseases. That's where I'm leaving that one. I'm gonna snuggle my cozy dumpster fire for this last one. And it's optimistic. It's an optimistic myth where not every bad day equals a flare or a relapse. Dumpster fire agrees. Not every bad dumpster fire day is an official flare-up or an official relapse. So the good news is you can have rough days where you feel like a dumpster fire and feel okay knowing that you're not going to have to change therapies. You're not going to be down for the count for an extended period of time. It is not the end of the world or necessarily the beginning of a downward spiral. This is also one that I hear a lot where, like, if I say I'm having a rough day, a lot of people are like, oh my God, she's flaring. And I'm like, no, I just have foot drop because it's 94 degrees and I decided to go running today and now everything hurts. I did it to myself. Whether or not there's cause, say like my random bouts of pain recently, that's not a flare and I'm certainly not relapsing. Based on my last scans, I'm killing it. I feel great and I think all of you are killing it and we're all just doing great. So if you start feeling low or down on your luck or honestly just like a heaping pile of doo-doo, that's okay. We are human, living with chronic illnesses or not. It's just a low point, but it doesn't necessarily damn you into a full-on official flare or a full-on relapse. So, to politely conclude this video on the top 5.5 most common myths and misconceptions about chronic illnesses, MS specifically, because that is what I am currently living with. I cannot speak to other people's experiences with other illnesses. It is, you're gonna die. Not true whatsoever. Yes, some folks have passed away due to complications related to the disease. You can read more details about all of these in the blog that is going up on chronicallyjoyful.blog tomorrow at 5 p.m. But myth number 1, you're going to die. No, you're not. Myth number 2, you look fine, therefore you must feel fine. No. You look fine because you've been living with this for long enough that you have figured out officially how to make it look easy and you're a badass warrior. And no one can tell you otherwise, but I'm here to gently encourage you. Show your authentic self, even if it's not great. And just feel confident in the fact that you're still doing wonderful and you are still kicking ass. See? Cog fog all the way. I can't function, but here we are together in authentic real time. Thank you for being here for this moment. Bring it back. Myth number 3, treat. If your symptoms are well managed, you don't need medication. Lies. Honestly, I think the DMTs that are available to us today are highly impressive, albeit highly aggressive in most cases. But if you are fortunate enough to not be on any medication whatsoever, keep on keeping on. Again, post in the comments what you are doing to live your life. We all want to know. If you are on a therapy that is working really abundantly well for you, also drop that in the comments for folks who may or may not be on something or are in the middle of a transition in their medication. Those times are really scary. So share your experience below with the folks so they can learn from people who have actually experienced it, because that made a huge difference for me. It's how I ended up on Ocrevus today. Shout out to you, Kelly and Alex. Okay. Tip 4. Or not tip, myth 4. Moments where I'm like, maybe I should start editing these, but you know what? You're all here for authenticity and to see me be a bobo and authentically live with my MS and cogvog. So I love you all so much. Thank you. Myth number 4, MS is directly inherited in family genealogy. Nobody knows the answer to that, so stop making assumptions. Always just do your research, trust your gut, and just know that it's not official whatsoever. Nobody knows where it comes from. Myth number 4.5. Most chronic diseases, especially MS, is not something that you contract. You do not contract MS. You're just kind of born with it and or develop it later in life due to unknown causes based on the lack of family genealogy in this case. Final myth here. Every bad day equals a full-on flare or relapse. That is not true. Sometimes you're just having a bad day. And it's okay. Take solace in that. Be like, man, I'm really symptomatic today. I'm not feeling my best. I am not showing up as my best self. And give yourself a little bit of extra love for that, for acknowledging that. And just be grateful in the moment that it most likely is not a full flare, nor a full-on relapse. We like to be positive on this channel. It's chronically joyful. Just make your assumptions, but of course, pay attention to how you're feeling, pay attention to your body, and if you do need medical attention, please reach out to your provider just to confirm that it is not a flare or relapse. But most often, it's not, friends. It's okay. So, to wrap this all up with a polite little bow before I go melt in the heat and mow my lawn, a word of advice too, assume positive intent. Always assume positive intent. For all 5 of these myths, assume a little bit better. And this goes for your friends, your family, strangers on the internet who are watching this who don't actually have a chronic illness. Assume the best. If somebody looks, I'll use me as an example. If somebody walks in and they look like me, you don't know my story. You don't know the ins and outs of how I'm feeling, what I've been through today, what is happening in my life specifically. You don't know my story. So just always be kind and show up as positively as you can. Just because giving grace to others in humanity in general is a really beautiful gift. You never know which stranger you smile at had a complete shift in the way that that day was going just because of that small moment from you. So, to get off my soapbox here, thank you for joining me for the top 5 myths and mysteries that I at least have personally experienced with living with MS over the last 12 years. I would love to banter with folks in the comments and just exchange stories over the horrific things that I've actually heard with these myths. Like, a little sneak peek. I actually had an uncle many years ago look at me and be like, who gave you that? You're gross. But you can't contract MS 4.5 point. So do share your experiences below. It really does make a difference. Check out the blog. Comments over there also make a difference. Just building this community up to be exactly what it needs to be, which is just a safe space for all of us to exist in our weird noodly way. So the light in me sees the light in all of you. Thank you so much for being here today. Have a wonderful Thursday, guys. And happy Memorial Day for Americans out there. Bye. My ceiling has been leaking for over a year, but the lovely technician who came to try and fix it was not afraid of dogs. So Miss Puddles got the opportunity to meet a stranger in the home, and the first thing she did was stick her tail between her legs and pee all over the floor and wouldn't get anywhere near him. So thank you for being the ultimate guard dog, Miss Puddles. I don't know what I would do without you.